This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
High school roundtable today. Looking forward to that. And Nate Bauer today. A high school roundtable, a lot of positivity. A lot of positivity on the high school roundtable. Because Shikellamy won, Selinsgrove won. Todd, what game do you have this week?
I'm actually going to Selinsgrove because my daughter is singing the national anthem with the 4th and 5th graders.
Oh, isn't that great? That is great. What a thrill for you.
Yes, and our best game is in Hollidaysburg, so.
Oh, who's Hollidaysburg?
Hollidaysburg is undefeated, and Mifflinburg's going down there undefeated as well.
Oh, very nice. Okay. Very, very nice. I like it. Okay. So yesterday, the NCAA said they want to go with one portal. And I may not be crazy about the dates because they're dropping the spring portal. And you know I prefer the spring portal. But I do see at least some semblance of logic here. And let me explain what the logic might be. With the NCAA, sometimes it's not easy to find it. But they want to go with, January 2 to 12 or something like that. And I do realize that there would still be 4 teams available in the college football playoff. But most universities in this particular year, 25-26, would start the spring semester either on Monday, January 5th, and some cases Monday, January 12th. Okay. So if you put it 2 through 12, I think is what they're saying, that would then mean that they would open the door for you to be in school and with your new program when the spring semester begins. So that's, I think, the logic to it. And because there's no spring portal, you have your team. Now, you can put your name into the portal whenever you wish, and it doesn't mean you have to sign in 2 through 12. Once your name is in the portal, that's it, it's in the portal. And if you wanted to sign in May after the spring semester, as long as your name was already in the portal, you can do that. So there's more flexibility than you realize. So I do see some semblance of logic in it. How about that?
Well, I don't wonder if the coaches prefer it just for that specific reason.
Yeah.
That they'll get everybody before spring practice.
Right. And in other words, you have everybody. You have your team in the winter program. You have your team in spring practice. You maintain your team going into the preseason. Okay. Right. So I can see that. It doesn't mean, let's take Trevor Pena. Trevor Pena did not come to Penn State until after the spring portal, right? It doesn't mean that a Trevor Pena, let's just use him as an example, because, I mean, he's on his last season. That you put your name in the portal in January, so you've told Syracuse you're not coming back. But if you wanted to still sign in May at the end of the semester, you can, because your name's already in the portal. So you can still do that. You can still make a pickup late in the game as long as the individual put their name in the portal May 2 to May 12.
I just wonder if somebody like that would not still be in the portal late, because you think somebody would have, scooped him up if he was going to be there.
Oh, no, I agree with that, but you see what I'm saying, that it's still possible. I'm just saying it's still a possibility that you can pick up somebody later in the portal. The door is still open to doing it, depending on who is signed and who's in the portal and has decided to wait and maybe take the process out further.
That solves kind of, we don't end up with the issues that they had with Nico last spring.
Yeah.
I guess the harder part will be the teams that end up losing somebody in the spring and trying to look to fill those holes. Because, like I said, I assume people will scoop up the top end players. The guys that are going to end up be hanging around there are going to be your.
Of course.
I'm trying to find a nice and gentle word. Depth guys.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's possible to keep your name in a while. Because all you have to do is put your name in. That's all you have to do is put your name in. After that, there is no restriction on how long it takes for you to make up your mind. You can make up your mind 2 through 12. Great. You can make up your mind in February. You can make up your mind in April. So.
Are they? I didn't read it that closely. Are they keeping the part about if the coach leaves, you have 10 days to go in or whatever it is?
30.
30.
Yeah, 30. I mean, that's the situation right now that Virginia Tech and UCLA are in. But the difference is with Virginia Tech and UCLA is they've only played 3 games. There are going to be some of the younger players on each team. I believe there are going to be some younger players on each team that may consider the option of not playing past the 4th game. And Penn State, by the way, plays UCLA in Game 5. 4th game of the year for UCLA is going to be the Northwestern game next week. They're off this week.
I was going to say, I guess my question is, under this new rule, is that 30-day portal still open, or would these kids have to wait until January to decide?
No, it's still open.
Okay.
And they can, in other words, they have 2 portals.
Yeah.
They have the portal where they're allowed to enter their name now, but they are not allowed to be a participant in the football program until the next semester. But they can, they can sit there and make a decision now, and they can be recruited now. I mean, there's already one player for Virginia Tech that is actively now shopping. UCLA has already lost, is it 7, maybe 8 in the recruiting class that have reopened their recruitment. Now, they're recruits, and so they haven't signed. But it's the younger, anybody that has exhausted their eligibility, this year they will exhaust their eligibility, or they've exhausted their redshirt year, all right, that becomes a precarious decision. But there's some people that haven't. They may look around. Say you're a true freshman. You're playing. I can take this year and I can play the 4th game, and then I can put my name in the portal. I mean, so they've got 30 days to make that decision.
The question that just popped into my head, and just because it's the name we know, say you're Nico, and could somebody decide, like, hey, I have a senior quarterback. I know I need a quarterback next year. Let's get him on campus now. Like, I know he can't play, but could he practice with them for the rest of this semester, and then boom, you're the starting quarterback in the spring?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think you can do that. I think you're allowed to make a commitment, and then after January 1, you're allowed to be a part of said program. Or I think you might be allowed to be a part of the program, but not as an active player once your semester, the fall semester, is over with. Right? I think that's about the time you're allowed to do it.
I just think about, like, the Kansas State basketball player last year that was kicked off the team early in the season and was able to be eligible to play at Memphis the same year.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember that too, and it's like that made no sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
But it was Kansas State and Memphis, so I don't know. Like, okay, Kansas State and Memphis. Yeah. But yeah. But no, you would not be allowed to my knowledge. Right? You're sitting there and you're looking at all these rules with how do you go through this with the current rules. And I don't know. The way I understand it is they've got 30 days to put their name in, and that they can't play this year for the team that they decide to go to.
I mean, why would we be confused on the rules? They're so clear, and
I'll get back to you on that. It's just, the whole thing is, the number of times I heard Joe Paterno say over the years, he said they need to rewrite the rule book. He said they need to start out page 1. This is a rule. They go from there. I heard him say that so many times. Because the rule book is convoluted.
I was going to say, it's like the United States tax code. It does not have to be that long.
Oh. Just be like the suit. Don't pay any. Oh, I'm sorry. That's how he gets around it. Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Our disclaimer for the federal government, that is a joke. Maybe.
No, it was a joke. It was a joke. We think. But, yeah, that's but that's a big, to me, that's one of those big issue points. I don't understand why they did this after the third game, because I think that it puts those two programs into a gray area on personnel moving forward the rest of the season. See, that's what I think the issue is. It's the personnel moving forward the rest of the season.
I think it was the UCLA one I was reading, but it seems like it came from a lot of pressure from boosters to get this done now, and not understanding, what the implications were. And somebody made the point is both athletic directors don't have the power right now to stand up to the boosters to tell them, no, this probably isn't the right decision at this time.
Well, that's probably true. I mean, Martin Jarmond is has been under some fire there because of the football program, and not so much with Mick Cronin in basketball, but he's got an athletic department where he started his tenure in the Big Ten, $104 million in debt, football attendance, bad Pac-12 TV deal, and COVID really hurt the financials at UCLA. They needed to go to the Big Ten just to give them a chance of survival in today's athletic world. So he needs his boosters more than ever. But you have to have the ability to look at the boosters and say, everybody, look, let's just talk for a second here. I want you to understand something. And then play it out for them. It doesn't mean I won't do something. But I'm going to wait till after the Penn State game to do it. What do you want to wait till the Penn State game? I'm going to make a decision one way or another after the Penn State game. Why are you going to wait till that game? Because it's game 5 and here are the rules. Oh.
Well, and on the other end, Virginia Tech's not even letting him select the AD select the coach. They're going with the selection committee. Of course, he did select the last two. I can see why they wouldn't let him do. They had to get rid of the last two, so I'm assuming they don't want him to select the next one.
Yeah, I'm not big on selection committees.
No, because their first big idea is going to be Shane Beamer.
Right.
And we got one for you.
Right. And guess what? Shane Beamer probably has a better job right now.
If they had the boosters to pay the money to get Shane Beamer from South Carolina, their football program would probably be in better shape now anyway.
Right. I just don't, I think he's got a better job right now.
I mean, we talked about it earlier this week. You certainly got a better shot even as a third team in the SEC, I think, than you do to be the second team in the ACC.
Oh, I know. Look, he almost made the playoff last year. He's got a terrific quarterback. I don't know if he's playing this weekend or not against Missouri and Lenora Sellers. And I don't, this is one of those where the boosters need to know what the rules are. Did anybody tell them what the rules were? Did anybody explain what the rules are?
it's also a group of people that sometimes doesn't care about those kind of things either.
I mean, well, maybe they don't want half the players there to begin with.
Yeah,
that's the other part too. No.
It also sounds like Virginia Tech is going to go with the GM role more. I mean, like the Andrew Luck GM role.
I watched the opening. I have not watched Stanford since, but week 0, Stanford played Hawaii out there. And every time ESPN turned around, there was Andrew Luck in the coach's box with the coaches. And they talked more about him than they did about Frank Reich or the other coaches.
I'm not sure Frank Reich's going to be there after this season, but your point is taken.
He may not be, yeah. Right. But it's like...
How many times on that late Monday night game do we have to look at Tom Brady in the box?
Oh, I know. Look, TV is... Oh, boy.
Means the return of football, everything pumpkin spice, and the September Serrano sale at Sunbury Motors Kia.
I wanna see ya in a Kia. Sunbury Motors Kia.
That's right, the September Serrano sale is on, and SMC has 10 2025 Kia Serrano turbo models with $1,000 in Kia Finance bonus cash and as low as 0% APR financing for 48 months. The 2025 Kia Serrano hybrids have as low as 0.9% APR for 48 months with an additional $500 in Kia Finance bonus cash. And Sunbury Motors Kia has 2025 Kia Serrano S all-wheel drive models starting at just over $35,000. Remember, every new Kia comes with a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. It's a September to remember. The September Serrano sale at Sunbury Motors Kia on the Strip in Hummel's Wharf and at sunburymotorskia.com.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now, from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance. Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, light, business, boat, motorcycle, RV. Medicare products. Okay. Remember, the Medicare open enrollment begins October 15th. I would think it's safe to say that it would not hurt to have a pro behind you on that. That, of course, would be for me, Steve Engel. And they do a great job of saving you money, and they do a great job of customer service. It's all at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. And do we have Dave already out of the gate?
Yes, we do.
Hell, Dave, they're 3-1. They're 3-1. There's a lot of positivity.
They really came back strong on last Friday night, Steve.
What'd you like about what you saw?
Even the guys on the chain after the game was over were making a comment of how our line, for the first time this year, basically handled the other teams, both their offensive and defensive lines. That was probably a key to the game. Our quarterback ran for 128 yards. We also our extra point, Ryan DePhillips, kicker, was 5 for 5, and Brody Raybuck also punted, and he probably averaged over 45 to 50 yards per punt. And I forgot to tell you that last week, that one of the things that's been really good this year, we have a great kicker and we have a great punter. But we were down 14-7, and with about 4 minutes to go, we scored, and with 27 seconds to go, we scored and went in 28-14 at halftime. And that was kind of like putting a lid on the coffin with Williamsport, because they really didn't do a lot the second half.
No. But when's the last time you looked at a Shikellamy offensive line, or just playing in the trenches, both sides of the ball, and thought, boy, you know what? Quote, we've got something here.
Yeah, I think there's one senior on offense and one senior on defense in the offensive line. They're all juniors and sophomores. And if I would say when's the last time, I can't remember the last time that we had 5 solid kids on offense and we've got, 3 to 5 kids that can come in and play defensive line. But again, I told you last week, these kids that are juniors, they've been starting since they were freshmen. So they might be starting to feel their oats a little bit. And we'll find out this week, because Jersey Shore is very intimidating on both the offensive and defensive lines. And if they play like they did against Williamsport, I'm not saying that we will have it easy, but it'll sure make the game a lot more interesting.
What's it been like watching those lines come together and grow up together?
Well, Steve, that's what I played when I was in school, and I know how important it is to number one, if one person misses an assignment on the offensive line, basically the play gets blown up. And the second thing is the fact that you come off the ball. If you don't come off the ball, if you let the defense have the advantage, you're really going to struggle to run the ball. And our kids have been coming off the ball. We've had pretty good surge. I'm not saying every time, all right, but for the most part in the second half they did. On defense, it wasn't until I was coaching that I finally realized that most times defensive linemen are sacrificial lambs, because we're supposed to keep all the other blockers off of our linebackers and our outside backers. And our kids have been able to do that. When you are a threat to stop a tackle or get a tackle in one of the line gaps, and you're also a threat to sack the quarterback, they probably throw a little bit more people at you, and that frees up our linebackers.
The kicking game part of it I find fascinating, too, because, look, special teams are normally an afterthought on the high school level, with all due respect. You only have X amount of time. How impressed have you been by what they've done on special teams?
They've done very well. First of all, Ryan DePhillips, he kicked last year. He was a freshman on the soccer team last year. Plays midfield this year as a sophomore, and he's a very good soccer player. But he has now gotten, if he gets a good snap and they get the placement right, he's going to put it right through the uprights, and it's not a knuckleball. Usually it's end over end, and usually has enough time to spare. Now, he did miss a field goal on Friday night, but that was because it was in his range, and then we moved. And you know what happens when you move? They move it back 5 yards, and 5 yards is a big difference for some kids, even in college. Psychologically, it's tough on them. And our kickoff team has done a good job of covering, and we played against some kids that had some really good backs. We're always a threat to bring the ball back on a kickoff or a punt, and a lot of it has to do with the blocking up front. So I'm trying to remember. I don't want to guess, but I'm trying to remember who was a special teams coach. But he's done. I'll find out. I'll tell you next week.
Sure, that's fine.
He's done a very good job with these kids. And Michael, Coach Purnell used to say, some people just fill in with people so they get playing time. He said, special teams are very important. He said, you got to have your best athletes in there, and that's what they've been doing.
So now Jersey Shore is a program that in recent years has become really good. They can't stand Kevin up there, but, that's a different story. But they've become really year in it. Why is it year in and year out they have become this good?
I think it has to do a lot with the head coach and his assistants. They've been they're like Southern, all right? Southern's coaches and Jimmy Roth and his staff, they've been there a long time and they've stayed together. And this group is together and they've been successful. I've always thought that if you're winning or you're playing hard or you get into the playoffs, that draws kids that might not come out for the team will play. And that happened to Shikellamy, all right? There are some kids that once we have some success, like we've had this year, that you'll get them out. But I think overall, Jersey Shore was always a great wrestling school, and they were tough wrestlers. Well, now they're not only just tough wrestlers, but they've transitioned into what I would call kids that aren't afraid to get in the weight room, aren't afraid to go to 7-on-7, aren't afraid to work all year long to get better, and they are good. And they're not big. I look across the defensive line, and they're all about the size I like, about 5'10", 200 pounds. And they're quick, and like I said, they bought into the program, and Coach does a good job up there.
Dave, always a pleasure. Great job on Friday night.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you. You got a week off, don't you?
I sure do. And I can guarantee you I'm not doing much this weekend. So
that's good. We're supposed to have beautiful weather, so enjoy it.
I will. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve.
Chief Dave Ritchie. All right, so Todd, Selinsgrove, they broke through. How important was it for them to, quote, just break through? And what kind of difference can that make for a team in practice?
I think it's going to be huge, just confidence level wise. We talked last week, they really struggled in that first 3 games of the season, really couldn't get their heads above water. And I think that's the most important thing, is just to have some success where, the rest of the schedule isn't easy, but it's a little easier than those first 3 games of the season. And they played real well. They got their running game going last week. Brett Rice ran for 120 yards and a couple of scores, and plus they got a defensive touchdown. So they have to feel pretty confident on both sides of the ball.
And for them to get the running game going, what did that mean? Not just in scoring points, but it kept the defense off the field too.
Yeah, and that's huge. I think that's also kind of when you guys talk about Schick, that's kind of an underrated part of the Schick success this year is when you score some points, it's the obvious, but it also does give your defense a chance to rest a little bit. And even coaches talk about kids playing two-way. It's there's more of an enjoyment on offense. You're scoring points, and it's not a rest to play offense, but when you're running around and chasing people down and you're not successful, and it's defense is just harder when you're not very good. And now with a little bit more confidence and a team they match up better with, they get Williamsport this week as well. After Schick played them last week, I got to feel that they feel at least a little more confident coming into this game than maybe they did over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about that. Do they have enough of a passing game to help out the running game?
They do, and I think that was the big issue, is teams were really, Rocco Amato, the quarterback, isn't going to throw an 80-yard bomb, but he's accurate in the short passing game. Yeah. Now the big issue, maybe the most disappointing part about the game last week, is Selinsgrove's best receiver, Wyatt Teets, went down with an injury, and I don't think he's going to be available this week. So he was the only senior in that wide receiver core that was getting a lot of play. So they're going to have to rely on 2 or 3 sophomores right now in the passing game, and that's going to be something to look for, to see how they mesh with Amato in the passing game.
And then your daughter's part of the group that's singing the national anthem.
Yes, she is. 4th and 5th graders sing the national anthem, one home game a year, and this is the home game. It's always fun. The band, I think they go up. I don't know if they go this afternoon or tomorrow afternoon to meet with the band, and they all get together and practice it, and then they'll sing it tomorrow before the game. That's really cool.
All right. We will take a break. Come back with more in a moment, brought to you by Purdy Insurance here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is, because it's Brewers Outlet time. The Beverage Supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.
Welcome back to this.
Okay, so a couple quick answers for you, Todd, on the transfer part. Okay, so let's start with basic questions. Can the players enter the portal right now? Yep. Okay, we mentioned 30 days. They've done that. Okay. Technically, a player can enter their name in the portal and keep playing with their current team. But that's normally something the current coaching staff's not enamored with. But they could. So I'm just telling you. You can stay with your current team, keep playing, but have your name in the portal. You can do that. It's not usually like, feels good. All right, great. Okay. Now, you put your name in the portal and you pick a school. All right. Now, here's an interesting technicality. If a player enters the portal in this month, September, pick a school, and it turns out they pick a school that's on the quarters system. Now, not many schools are on the quarters system, okay? Penn State's on a semester system, as an example. Most schools are on a semester system. They could actually start practicing with their new team, but could not play in a game. If they're on the semester system, they couldn't start doing this until after the semester's over. You know what's interesting? You know who's on the quarter system? UCLA. In fact, they have not started their fall classes yet. They don't start their fall classes until Thursday next week. Now, I'm just saying, it's interesting that they don't, that they're on the quarter system, because this rule doesn't affect them. Because this would be absorbing a player, not losing a player. Okay. The NIL part. Okay. There have been groups that have retained attorneys on the NIL part, including, we've talked about Nico Iamaleava for UCLA, right? Well, his brother Madden left Arkansas to go to UCLA. And the Arkansas NIL collective retained an attorney to enforce the buyout. Could an entire team jump into the portal and redshirt? No, it's not going to happen because there's too many players that have either redshirted or they're in their senior season and their eligibility's up. So you're not going to lose the whole team. Okay? Now, is it possible for a large group of players to opt out the rest of the season? Yes. And if you're in a position where you've got additional years and you don't want this year to count, you can do that. You can do that.
We talked about this yesterday. That there's a good possibility that fifth game Penn State plays out there could be real weird.
Okay, so let's give you a more recent Big Ten example. Mel Tucker at Michigan State. So just 2 years ago, he was fired in September. It was at the end of the month. 8 scholarship players entered the portal in October and November. Right? Texas A&M the same year got rid of Jimbo Fisher on November 12th. But they only lost one player the rest of the season. So that see what I mean? So Michigan State had 8 scholarship players enter the portal in the 30-day window. Right? And they lost 8 of them. Texas A&M didn't make their move till November 12th. They lost 1. Because at that point, everybody's committed to playing. So, just as an example. Now, do I see a mass exodus? No. But do I see some exodus? Yeah.
I just say that about UCLA just because it seems like they're more in disarray than even Virginia Tech is right now. That just seems that the between the football program and I'm sure people saw the pictures of the stands against New Mexico, and we talked about their money problems, and it just doesn't feel like it's a very good scene out there right now.
Well, no, and that's one of the reasons they went to the Big Ten was the scene you talked about, because they were when they entered the Big Ten, they were $104 million in debt. Why? Several reasons. One, of course, COVID hurt them dramatically. There's no question about that. 2, the attendance where they were averaging in 2015, 2016, right around there, they were averaging about 77,000 fans a game in the Rose Bowl. Those numbers have dropped into the 30s. Now, getting into the Big Ten has increased their attendance, but they haven't played a Big Ten game yet. I mean, they're finally going to play a Big Ten game. I think Penn State's their home opener of the Big Ten. I believe their game with Northwestern is in Evanston next week. In fact, I'm 98% sure of that. So,
I mean, if they get 60,000 for that game, 40,000 is going to be Penn State fans.
Right, but that doesn't matter. They're all buying UCLA tickets. That's all UCLA cares about. They need people to buy tickets there because they're 28 miles from downtown L.A.